Start.
Hey May, I am late but I deliver. Here's a few exercises you can do for your lower back and hips. Ideally try to do them once a day because with these things there's more a thing of maintenance and just releasing tension from the lower back and the hips and just creating a little bit of flexibility. So ideally if you have a yoga strap, I'm using a koi, which also works. I don't have my yoga strap here. It can also be a scarf. Elastic bands are not ideal because they don't offer much resistance, but if that's all you have, that's fine. Otherwise, a belt, normal belt, a koi or something of the sort will work. So you want to start lying down on your back. Try to tilt your pelvis so that your entire lower back is on the mat. And then you can start, depending on how much flexibility you have in your hamstrings, you can start with one knee bent, and then you're gonna straighten your other leg, bring the scarf, strap, whatever, around the ball of your feet. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna try to create some resistance. And as you inhale, you're gonna press your heel up. And then as you exhale, you're gonna try to hug your thigh towards your stomach. Try not to overextend, so if you need to bend your knee, do it. You do want to feel a stretch in your hamstring, but not so much that you're overextending the back of your knee. Try to keep your shoulder blades on the mat, so if you need, you can slide your hands down the strap to help you pull, but try not to round the back, so try not to lift your shoulder blades from the mat. Just do this for a couple of breaths, 5 to 10 breaths, and then you can just release. Next thing, you're gonna cross, you can do the same leg first. You're gonna cross your ankle over your thigh, bring the legs in, arms around, right arm in between the legs, and you can either interlace your fingers behind your thigh or on your shin. Keep the leg that is on top, keep the foot flexed. This will help you protect your knee. And then again, you're gonna try to create some resistance. As you inhale, you're gonna bring your legs towards your chest. And as you exhale, you're gonna send your knee away from your chest. And you're still trying to keep your tailbone on the mat. So try to keep extending the tailbone forward. If you want a little bit more, you can even use your right elbow and press your leg away from you. So again, here you have to check how much flexibility. This will stretch your outer right hip. So you might not be able to come as close to your chest as I am. Maybe you stay here, but you want to find a little bit of a stretch. Again, try to keep the shoulder blades on the mat, so try not to lift. You can always use a strap here. If you're still working on that flexibility, you can always bring the strap around your leg. If using your hands means you're gonna round your back. From here, you're gonna release the legs, both legs on the floor. And then you're gonna extend that leg that you haven't worked yet. You're gonna bring your knee towards the chest and we're gonna come into a recline twist. So you're gonna send your right knee over to the left. You can either shift your hips a little bit to the right to give you a little bit more space. And you're gonna extend your right arm. One thing to really, really be conscious of here is you wanna keep your right shoulder your shoulder blade on the ground, on the mat. So you'll see that if you try to send your knee all the way to the left, chances are your right shoulder will come off. But you don't want to do that. You want to ground down through that shoulder because that's what's going to help you stretch through the side of the right body. Imagine you're anchoring, imagine there's a weight on your right knee, but you're anchoring your shoulder. And it's this weight on your right knee that will slowly, slowly start to create more extension, more space through the right side of your body. Okay, once you do that, you can repeat on the other side, and then you can come to a seat. So, working on hips a little bit now. This is something that has worked a lot for a friend of mine who has really, really tight hips and tight hip flexors. Hip flexors are what allow you to basically fold forward, so to fold onto your hips. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna bring one shin parallel to your body, keeping the foot flexed. And then you're gonna bring the other shin, the other leg, so that your knee is in line with your hip and your ankle is in line with your knee. So you're creating two 90-degree angles with your legs. You're gonna try to ground down through that back hip, and then you're gonna turn diagonally on your mat. So you're gonna turn to face that gap between the two legs. You're gonna bring your hands behind you, and here you're gonna walk back just as far as feels comfortable. You might start to feel a big stretch on your left hip already, so you might wanna stay here. You might be able to come down to your forearms, but always try to ground down through that left leg. If your left knee starts lifting off the mat, then just come back up and just hold here for a few breaths. And then you can just switch. Another really good way to mobilize the hips, so if it turns out that you do have tight hips, is to just, and you can do this either with your bum on the mat, or you can come to a low squat and do this, but something that is really good to do every day is just to mobilize the hips. And you can do this by just windshield wiping the knees from side to side a couple of times. So it's very similar to what you did before, but this is just more the mobility side of it. And then just try to hold, same thing. You can start from a squatting position and then just bring one knee in one at a time. And the good thing about this is that you're working on internal and external rotation of the hip. So here, the right hip is rotating internally, and then once it opens to the side, it's rotating externally. So this is good to open up the hips. Any twists are good for the lower back. That's one of the best things if you have low back pain. So you can go through a cat-cow is also really good just to mobilize the spine in general. So cat-cow, only thing I think this is something you will know. Only thing to be conscious of, especially if you have pain in your lower back, is try to hug your low belly in towards the spine. Very often when we're here, we're collapsing onto the lower back, and that just puts more pressure. So as you hug the low belly in, you'll see that there's already more space for your lower back, and then you just go through your cat-cow, pressing firmly through your palms, inhaling to lower the stomach, pressing down through the palms, chest moves forward, and then exhaling, hugging everything in, and stretching to the back. Another one that is really helpful for the lower back is thread the needle. Basically what you do here, and you're going to do that on both sides, is you shift the weight onto your left palm, inhale to open out to the side, extend through your fingers, and then as you exhale, you're going to thread the arm behind, slowly lower your shoulder down, bring your ear to the mat, and then take a few breaths here. Notice that there's a tendency for your hips to shift to the right in this case. So just gently shift them back so that they remain in center. You want to keep your hips in line with the knees. And then this left arm can either stay where it is, you can use it to help you twist a little bit more. You can extend the arm forward, or you can bring it into a bind to also intensify the stretch. Really important here is to ground down through that right shoulder, press back through the hips, because you are trying to twist. So imagine you're trying to send your left shoulder, in this case, as far to the right as you can. To come out of it, just slowly bring your hands back in front of you, press down, and then slowly come down. Another one that is really good for the lower back is Sphinx pose, but here you also have to be careful. So you come down to your forearms, try to keep your forearms parallel to each other, so elbows and wrists are parallel. Ideally, you want to try to keep your elbows under the shoulders, but if this is too much on your lower back, you can always bring the elbows a little bit further. So you see that the curvature of your back will be a little bit less, so it's less of a back bend. So you can always start here. And then really importantly here is you want to hug your pelvis towards the mat. And this means activating the glutes a little bit. Because again, if you're here, you're putting more pressure on the lower back. So the curvature of your lower back is going to be more intense. If you hug the pelvis onto the mat, you're activating your core and you're helping to protect the lower back. You're going to press down through the forearms, so we're lifting off the mat. And then imagine you're trying to slide your chest forward, almost like you're trying to move your elbows forward and your hands back. Let your shoulders roll down the back, keeping your gaze forward. You can press down the tops of the feet to help you ground here. Just a few breaths, and then release. For twists, you can either do a seated twist, which I'll show you in a bit, or you can just do a simple low lunge twist. You'll bring your one foot forward, and you can keep some space between your back knee and your front foot. Keep the opposite hand of the foot on the mat, and then just open your chest out to the side. Really important to press up through the palm so we're not collapsing the weight onto the wrist. And then you're trying to stack one shoulder over the other. But there's this long line of energy from the bottom hand to the upper fingers. A couple of breaths here, and then you release, and you can switch. With seated twists, you can either do it on a cross-legged position, or you one hand behind the back, the opposite hand to the opposite knee. And once again, use this back hand. Keep it close to you so you don't want to be leaning back too much. So you want to keep it close to you, and you want to ground onto this hand. It can be either on your fingertips or your palm. Use this to lift up and lengthen through the spine, and then slowly come to your twist. Try to keep your chin in line with your chest so that you're not putting unnecessary strain on your neck. The other option is to keep your legs extended and then bring one foot in. Try to keep about a fist distance between your foot and your thigh, and then same thing, you bring the same hand as the knee behind the back, and then the opposite hand can either come to outside of the knee to the elbow crease, or for a more intense twist, you can bring the elbow to the outside of the knee, and once again, you want to lift off that back hand and then slowly come into your twist. And I think that's plenty for now. So try to start with some of those or all of those, and always focus on sensation. See how it feels. If it starts to feel too tense on the lower back, or if your hips are too tight, just don't go too deep, or try just a couple of ones until you start to build a little bit more flexibility, and then we can check when we finally have a lesson.